We are ready to begin Lesson 2, the vowel sounds. You will notice here that Lesson 2 introduces word list 3. Be mindful of this. Don't think you missed something. You didn't. Lesson numbers and word list numbers will never match. There was no way to avoid that because some lessons have 3 or 4 lists. Everyone should be comfortable by now with the bouncing technique for pronouncing words. Remind the students that they have just completed 120 vocabulary words. This enables them to unlock hundreds of new words they will eventually meet. By now, many students have become aware of this and will begin observing words on signs or advertisements and excitedly sharing this newfound talent with everyone. They become totally motivated. Encourage this. Certainly the 5 vowels can be confusing because they have 2 sounds. We call these sounds long and short, although they really are neither long nor short as we would normally think of them. We will use these 3 sections to teach the long and short vowels. Our symbol of reference for the whole vowel section is this little green man, and he will appear on pages connected to this lesson on vowels, as the boy in costume did in the previous lesson. Up until now, we have avoided the individual sounds of these letters shown in this alphabet chart because they could be confusing. Therefore, this vowel presentation will be divided into 3 parts so we can deal with them a little at a time. Let's begin with the long vowels. A long vowel actually says its name. They're the easiest ones. The long A says A. The long E is E. The long I is I. And then O and U. That's easy enough. Students will have no problem identifying the long vowels when they hear them. Just spend enough time having the students listen for the long vowels in various words that are given to them orally. Do this exercise casually, listening for the long A, E, I, O, or U in a word. It's not a problem. Now, when this is established, how do we identify long vowels in words we see? Well, let's go to the first part of the chart. Well, an E at the end of a word in our English language is silent, as demonstrated by our little man tiptoeing silently. We don't hear an E at the end of words in our English language. But that quiet, silent E at the end of a word has a job. The purpose of this silent E is to make the vowel up front, closest to it, sound long. It makes that vowel say its own name. We call this the silent E rule. In this case, the E will make the O say its name. Therefore, bouncing the letters together, we have b-o-n, bone. Looking at this word, the silent E makes the A sound long, so we have k-a-k, cake. The E is silent. In this word, the silent E makes the I long, so we have b-i-t, bite. The E is silent. We don't hear it. Now, for the teacher to develop this magic E rule, choose only the cards from this word list 3 that show an E at the end. Spend time on the words in class. Then send the homework cards that have the same words. I cannot anticipate the size of your target group. There could be 1, there could be 5, there could be 10 students. The teacher will have to adjust the homework card schedule to meet the needs of the group because in this lesson 2 and in the next lesson 3, there are only 60 words each. Not a lot of cards to go around. I stressed in the beginning the need for flexibility. The homework cards for these 2 lessons are an example. When you have tailored the homework cards to meet your needs and the students are comfortable with this red rule pattern, go to the workbook where these exact words will be used in regular print. Again, this is all summarized with the exact page numbers on this yellow lesson page where you can refer to it at your leisure. I must point out that this second lesson on vowels is probably the most difficult for students to master. It's hard to believe that little words like cat, set, or hit can be a problem to read, but they are. This whole set is visual, so with this section on vowels only, an additional support is used. You definitely want the students to focus on the red patterns. Therefore, after the students become familiar with the cards, and after doing the workbook, which uses the exact vocabulary from the cards, you want to give them visual practice for this red pattern. Seeing it repeated over and over, it leaves a visual impression. Distribute this display page 5. This is the first. The purpose is definitely not to memorize, we don't do that, but rather to recognize the pattern and be comfortable with an E at the end of a word. Be creative with these sheets. Read them in order. Read them from top to bottom, from bottom to top, from left to right, from right to left. Read them randomly. Always have these words read aloud so the students can hear themselves say the necessary sound. Obviously, this is a necessary homework page. Again, as with other homework, stress with the parents that this is not meant to be rigid, but rather relaxed. Some students need to stand to read them. Others may just sit or curl up, whatever. The visual repetitiveness on these sheets is important. You want the students to easily recognize and focus on the red E at the end. The red rule on this sheet is very clear. It jumps out at them repeatedly. And the words are easy. In fact, remind the students that every word on this sheet could actually have been on the red card. So the words here are just more of the same. So moving along, unlike the previous lesson, do not move to the formal reading book yet, but fear not, the students will be reading, but just not in their book yet. Instead, the teacher should be connecting the vocabulary words and red rules the students know so far to library books they choose. Scan pages from a library book to be seen on a large screen for all to see. Zero in on the words that the students should be able to decode and have students read them aloud. Continue this browsing, asking for volunteers. Students like this activity. It connects what they are doing to something real, something tangible. Another really good word hunt. As a class, take them for a walk through the school halls and decode words from bulletins and signs. You want to connect what they are decoding to the real world, and they really enjoy this. Their environment is filled with wonderful things to read. When the time is right, we will move to part 2. By now, students are certainly accustomed to hearing the long vowel sounds, but now we will be seeing another way they're long. In addition to the magic E rule, we will talk about the two vowels walking. Using the old rhyme, when two vowels go walking, the first does the talking, the O does the talking, it says its name, and the A just does the walking. So we have ra-o-da, road. In this word, the two vowels of walking are E and A. The E will do the talking. E, saying his name. The A just does the walking. So we have ma-e-ta, meet. In this word, there are two vowels walking, and they are I and E. The I will do the talking. He's going to say his name, I, and the E just does the walking. The word is pie. In this word, the two vowels walking are U and I, and the U will do the talking. The I just silently does the walking. The word is suit. For the development of these two vowels walking, again, go to the word cards for list 3, and following the earlier procedure, choose only cards from the list with two vowels walking, like eat and coat. And just as we did before, develop these new word cards in class, then again, send the smaller cards for homework. Later, follow up with specific workbook pages, where only these particular words are used. Same procedure as before. These steps are being delivered quickly, but summary notes and page numbers are in the lesson book. Afterward, it is time again to become comfortable seeing, becoming alert to decoding the new red rule. As we did before, distribute display page 6, where there is more practice visually developing the two vowels walking. Again, the red rule jumps out at them. Again, read these words from every direction as we did before, up and down, sideways, and it will definitely be read aloud at home, and often. Meanwhile, to carry over this new skill, scan bold headlines or ads in a newspaper or a magazine, again displayed on a large screen in class. Have students locate words in the ads that they can decode, two vowels walking, magic E, and certainly the old rules. Ask for volunteers to decode. All of this is an important connection to the real world, and at this point, it is more important to the students than reading a story. Actually, parts 1 and 2 that we just completed should move smoothly. We have not gone to our reading book yet, but we have seen to it that they have certainly been reading things within their own environment. Now there's one more thing to address. These we call the short vowels. They have a different sound. They are more challenging than the long vowels we did so far. They don't yell out their names as the long vowels did, so sometimes they're more difficult for the students to hear. They actually sound like the beginning of the pictures they're with. This reading set includes 5 large reproductions of these small pictures. Display them all year near the red letter chart for easy reference. Say and stress the beginning of each. Listen to the beginning of apple. Do not say apple. Just get ready to say it. Ah. Do not say the word elephant. Just get ready to say it. Eh. Do the same with itch. The I sound. The dog is itchy. Octopus. The ah sound. Umbrella. The sound. Our clue for recognizing a short vowel when we see it in a word is this little snail. He's all alone. He does not look happy about being all alone. We'll talk more about him in a minute. Because before moving on to seeing actual word cards, students must be able to hear the 5 different sounds. Distribute display page 7. Using this page, encourage the students to exaggerate the beginning of each picture. Keep things informal. Have the students verbally play with the sounds, stressing the beginning of each picture. This can get very funny. They all start to laugh, and that's good. After they have tried them all, give them a word. Ask for a volunteer to identify the short vowel sound they hear at the beginning of a word like act. Be sure to exaggerate the beginning for them to hear, so they will begin stressing the sounds themselves. Then give a word with a short vowel in the middle, like pat. Emphasize the ah sound and have them identify it. Do this with all the short vowels, one at a time. Keep the listening lessons casual. Make it fun to listen and match. Giggling at the dog with the itch is good. Use the giggling to your advantage. The students become less aware of themselves and more aware of what they're doing when they are smiling and relaxed. Do a lot of listening activities with these 5 short vowels, because believe it or not, these little vowels are a challenge. Also, play the team game described on the yellow lesson page. Students like it. So, while the top part of this section is a guide to the sounds of the short vowels, let's start looking for them in words. How will we know vowels are short when we see them in a word? Well, we will know we are seeing a short vowel when it is the only vowel in a word. That brings us back to our little snail. He's our clue. He's all alone here. My goodness, he's all alone between 2 big trees. He certainly doesn't look brave or happy to be alone. So when he says his name, A, E, I, O, or U, he will not yell it out proudly as the long vowels did. A, E, no, none of that. The vowels all alone will sound different, like the beginning of one of these 5 pictures. Look at this word here, H-E-L-P. The E is all alone, with a consonant on the left, consonants on the right. That poor little E is the only vowel in the word. He will not happily yell out his long name. Instead, he will sound short, like the beginning of elephant, and it's pronounced h, e, o, p. So when the listening activities are over and the 5 short vowel sounds have been established, the students will move from hearing them to using their eyes to decode them when they see them in a word, one at a time. Begin with the short A cards. Sort them out from the pack as we did before. Let's look at this word. The A is all alone here, so the little a certainly will not be yelling out his name. Instead, the little a will sound like the beginning of apple, and we have p, a, t, pat. That's how it's done. Work on all of the short A cards. Make sure the students can read them well. Send the homework cards just as we did before. Then, following the procedure from earlier in this lesson, distribute the Apple display page 8. These display pages are very important. Again, the sheet visually emphasizes the red rule. The A all alone is visually repeated, and it makes an impression. We know the procedure here. Follow the short A with the short E. The E here is the only vowel. It's all alone, like our lonely snail, who certainly doesn't look very feisty, so the E will not be yelling out his name. Instead, it will sound like the beginning of and that gives us m, e, ult, melt. Sort out and develop all of the short E cards from the pack. Then assign the homework cards. Follow this with display page 9. Again, read and reread this page with the poor little lonely E from every direction and read it often. The vowel I is all alone in this word, so it will sound like the beginning of itch. Let's put it together. K-I-S. The word is kiss. This time, sort out and develop the I cards. These are to be done in class, then at home. Afterward, distribute this display page 10 for classwork and homework. The same procedure will be followed for short O and short U. First cards, then display pages for reinforcement. The specific homework pages to transition all of these words are clearly noted on the yellow lesson page. There's a lot of information here, but you will be approaching it in steps, and all of these steps and directions are again detailed on the yellow lesson page. Therefore, it is not as overwhelming as it may seem, and it all falls into place comfortably for the students. When the students are comfortable with all of the vocabulary cards from this list 3, then, finally, go to the reading book, which will pull everything together. Check the notes in the teacher's story guide for those 3 stories. After this lesson, it is appropriate to begin structured spelling lessons, but there is no problem with waiting until after lesson 4. It's the teacher's choice. Now it is time to go back to begin lesson 2 on your own. Go back to the beginning. Start with the long vowels. I will see you at lesson 3 with the 2 chefs.